The summer of 1518 was hot in Strasbourg. This city, then part of the Holy Roman Empire, was uneasy. People worried about many things. They worried about poverty, hunger and disease, but no one expected what happened next. It started with one woman. Her name was Frau Trophia. One day in mid-July, she stepped into a narrow street. Then she began to dance. It was a strange sight. Frau Trophia did not dance for joy. Her face showed no happiness. She seemed compelled by a force she could not control. Her arms flailed, her body twisted and turned. She danced alone under the summer sun. Passers-by stopped and stared. They wondered what was wrong with her. Was she drunk? Was she mad? Her husband begged her to stop, but Frau Trophea could not stop. The dance had taken hold of her. She danced for hours. The sun climbed high, then began to set. Still, Frau Trophea danced. This was the beginning. Soon many others would join her strange, terrifying dance. Frau Trophia's relentless dance continued. Day after day she moved. Her body was a prisoner of this strange rhythm. People watched her, a mix of scared and curious. Her family was desperate. They tried to help her, took her to a shrine, hoping for a miracle. But the dancing did not stop. She was the first, but she would not be the last. Soon other people started to dance. Within a week, about 30 people were dancing. They danced in the streets, in the squares. They could not stop themselves. They looked tired and distressed, yet they danced on. The city was becoming alarmed. The dancing seemed to be contagious. But it was not like a common illness. It spread like an idea, or like a fear. More and more people joined the ranks of the dancers. The dancing continued to spread. The dancing quickly escalated. Within a month, the number of dancers grew. Some reports say up to 400 people were affected. The streets of Strasbourg were filled with them. Imagine the scene. Hundreds of people dancing day and night. They were not smiling or celebrating. They were trapped in a desperate, endless motion. It was a horrifying spectacle. The city was in turmoil. Daily life was disrupted. The sound of shuffling feet filled the air. The sight of exhausted dancers was everywhere. The city council and the leading citizens gathered. They had to do something. But what could they do against such a bizarre phenomenon? The authorities were puzzled. The City Council of Strasbourg decided on a course of action. Their medical advisors believed the dancers suffered from overheated blood. The cure, they thought, was more dancing. Yes, more dancing. They believed the dancers needed to dance the fever out of their systems. So the authorities decided to encourage the dancing. They hoped people would dance until they were exhausted. Then, they believed, the dancers would be cured. To help this process, the council took remarkable steps. They cleared open spaces for the dancers. They even had a large wooden stage built in the grain market. Guild halls were also opened up. These were large halls usually used by craftsmen. Now they became dance halls for the afflicted. The idea was to provide a controlled environment, a place where people could dance themselves back to health. The authorities did not stop there. They hired professional musicians. Drummers and pipers were brought in. Their job was to play lively music. This music was meant to keep the dancers moving. Strong, healthy people were even hired to dance with the afflicted. Strasbourg became a city of organized yet chaotic dance. Sadly, their well-intentioned plan was about to backfire. The plan to cure the dancing with more dancing was a disaster. The constant music seemed to have the opposite effect. Instead of calming the dancers, it agitated them further. The lively tunes and beating drums did not lead to healing exhaustion. Instead, they seemed to draw more people into the frenzy. The sight of the stage and the organized dancing attracted attention. It may have encouraged others to join. The number of dancers continued to swell. The music, intended as medicine, acted like fuel on a fire. People who might have resisted the urge before now found themselves swept up. The public spectacle was intense. The dancers became even more frantic. Their movements grew wilder. The continuous activity pushed them beyond their limits. They were already suffering. Now their suffering increased. It became clear that the cure was not working. Dancers began to collapse. Some suffered from strokes. Others had heart attacks. Many died from sheer exhaustion. With their first cure having failed so badly, the authorities and doctors were desperate. They needed to understand what was causing this terrifying dancing plague. One theory that emerged much later in history was ergotism. Ergot is a type of fungus. It can grow on damp rye grain. Rye was a common grain used to make bread in that region. If people ate bread made from infected rye, they could be poisoned. This poisoning is called ergotism. Ergotism has two main forms. One causes gangrene, where parts of the body die. The other form is convulsive ergotism. This type causes muscle spasms, twitching, and hallucinations. Some historians thought this sounded like the dancing plague. The involuntary movements and the strange behavior could fit. However, there are problems with the ergotism theory. Most experts today think ergotism alone is not the answer. Another powerful explanation for the dancing plague points to the mind. This is the theory of mass psychogenic illness. It is sometimes called mass hysteria. This happens when a group of people experience similar physical symptoms, but there is no clear physical cause. Instead, extreme stress and shared beliefs can trigger it. The situation in Strasbourg in 1518 was certainly stressful. People were living in very difficult times. Strasbourg, like much of Europe then, faced many hardships. There was widespread poverty. Famine was a constant threat. Diseases like leprosy and the plague were terrifying realities. People felt powerless against these forces. This created a climate of fear and anxiety. Such intense and prolonged stress can make people vulnerable. It can make them susceptible to unusual psychological reactions. Religious beliefs also played a huge role in people's lives. Many people in 1518 held strong beliefs about spirits, saints, and curses. The dancing plague might have been a kind of stress reaction. It was a way for a community under immense pressure to express its distress. The dancing plague raged for weeks, stretching into late August and possibly early September. For those caught in its grip, there was no respite. They danced and danced, driven by an unseen force. Their bodies, pushed beyond human endurance, began to fail. The initial confusion and bizarre attempts at cures gave way to a grim reality. People were literally dancing themselves to death on the streets of Strasbourg. The exact number of deaths is hard to know for sure. Records from that time are not always complete. However, contemporary accounts suggest the toll was significant. Some sources claim that at the peak of the epidemic, as many as 15 people were dying each day. These deaths were often from heart attacks, strokes, or sheer exhaustion. The dancers collapsed, their bodies broken by the relentless movement. The city was witnessing a slow, agonizing public tragedy. Imagine the scene for those who were not dancing. They watched their friends, neighbors, and family members consumed by this mania. They saw the pain in their eyes. They heard their cries for help, yet they were powerless to stop it. The streets became stages for this deadly dance. The city was desperate for any solution to this waking nightmare. Slowly, as summer turned to autumn, the dancing plague began to subside. The number of new dancers dwindled. Those who had been dancing for weeks either recovered or tragically died. There was no single moment when it ended. It was more like a fever breaking. The intensity lessened. The city began to breathe again. By early September 1518, the worst seemed to be over. The streets of Strasbourg gradually returned to a fragile normality. The authorities' final measures involved a combination of restriction and religion. They took the remaining dancers to places of pilgrimage. They hoped that St. Vitus, whose anger some believed caused the plague, would now offer a cure. Whether these measures worked or the phenomenon simply ran its course is unclear. Perhaps the collective psychological pressure eased. Perhaps the cooler weather played a role. The exact reason for its decline is as mysterious as its cause. The final death toll is estimated to be significant for such a bizarre event. While precise figures are debated, some historians suggest that around 400 people may have been involved in the dancing. Many of them likely perished. The dancing plague of 1518 remains one of history's most peculiar and unsettling episodes.